Delighted to have our final discussion here it's a hard talk with Jim Alderman, CEO of Americas for the Radisson Hotel Group. If I could ask Arturo, there you are, Arturo. Arturo, lovely to see you.
Love to see you, Jonathan.
How's my friend in and your team in South America and Buenos Aires?
Very, very well, and well, all of us look in this amazing conference that you and your team put together. Really, once again, you clearly show the way, how to, and facilitating to be together, the key people of the industry.
Well, that's good. And I know, Arturo, I know you're doing a lot of great work too, and keeping the communication open with your webinars in South America and Latin America. So good for you for doing what you're doing for the industry.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Arturo is a legend in his industry, in our industry, in South America and Latin America. So Arturo, I'm going to leave it to you to run this Q&A with Jim Alderman.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. CEO, just in the middle of the COVID crisis. How was this? How were your feeling and your experience managing this?
Well, I kind of jumped in from one position to another with no time in between. So you're right. Officially, I did start March 16th. But actually, I saw the COVID impact and potential for a major U.S. impact kind of well in advance because, you could follow the impact through China and the worldwide devastation a bit before it got here. I'd been in constant contact with the rest of our team throughout the world. So as you know, in China, they had experienced it first, and I was actually scheduled to take 2 different trips to China before I started this, and both of them kept getting pushed back and kept getting rescheduled. And because of that, you kind of knew this was pretty serious. There was not, no appetite to have, us come over there, and really no appetite on my part to be traveling over there at the time. So because those got rescheduled, and because I have many colleagues from prior positions where I've been in the past that are in mainland China, in Singapore, and in HK, I was in constant contact with them to find out, really what was going on. And, they were just saying, prepare for it. So officially, they weren't even supposed to let anyone know I was starting it at Radisson Hotel Group until the 16th, but I probably really fully engaged on the Wednesday before and started speaking with my team. Now, the good thing is, oddly enough, in my own personal life, I've kind of had always seen this as a possibility, but there was no real way to anticipate the level of impact that would have globally, and certainly on our business. I mean, the devastation is certainly is unprecedented. And I'd been scanned, as I'm sure you have before, traveling. I'd been traveling in the SARS crisis, and you get to the airport, you see people looking at you through thermal scanners. So I was used to that, but no one really called out this level of duration, and this level of impact. So it was, the upside was in this specific position at Radisson Hotel Group, because it's a global company, and I'm CEO of the Americas, and I report to our global CEO. The team was there in place from operations in the Americas, led by Ali Al-Basuni, was ready to go. Commercial efforts led by our Chief Commercial Officer, Kristen Richter, and finance led by Amber Thiel. Those positions were in place, ready to go. So the team was all there. They just didn't have a CEO or a leader at the time, but they were doing fine before I got there. And hopefully, I've been a steadying hand and an additive presence along with them. But it's not just the Americas team, it's the global support. It's the support of our global CEO, Federico Gonzalez, our global head of responsible business safety and security, Inga Hibrix, has done an amazing job with the rest of the leaders throughout the world in Asia and in Europe, putting together, a methodology to take us safely through this, protect our employees, protect our guests, our colleagues, and our owners, especially because we're kind of a different model, as you know, in the Americas versus Europe and the rest of the world. We're more of a franchise model here. But those teams led together with our head of branding, Christina Serra, and supported by some of our own people, even our head of safety here, Rob Muehlberg, have really put together a methodology to take us through this and a way to start to hopefully emerge from this as well.
Okay, yeah, for mainly for global companies like yours, it was important to have good information, had information what had happened in Asia, no, that from this part of the world we can read the newspaper of a couple of weeks.
Right.
But it was enough to manage. What is the situation right now of the hotel industry in US?
Well, right now, obviously we're dealing with historically low occupancy, historically low revenues. And so managing through this now, it's at a time when there's been 40% job loss in our industry. I mean, we, as of December of 2019, I think the hospitality industry in the U.S. employed about almost 17 million people. And to think that 40% of them have experienced direct, either temporary or permanent furlough or layoff, it's the hardest hit sector of the economy. The last numbers that were released, 7.7 million jobs lost in our sector, by far leading the next sector of the economy by more than double. And so it's such a concentration of destruction to our industry. So we've been managing through it. We've been $21 billion of lost revenue. As you know, this isn't like we sell products, right? Every room is fungible. I can't, I know that everyone's hurting, but if I was in the car business and I hadn't sold my cars, maybe I could sell them again next month, or I could sell them the month after that, or maybe in August, or at some point in time, I still have the car. I'm paying lot rent, but our rooms, our business, our product is fungible. It's gone on a nightly basis. Just think about the magnitude of that. $21 billion worth of revenue gone. It's unthinkable.
Yeah, And from the Radisson point of view, how is the business doing in the pandemic era?
Well, what we've done to manage through it is we've also had to institute, some temporary reductions and some temporary furloughs. As I said, occupancy is, at a historic low right now. Our primary focus in the U.S., being really much more of a franchised organization, is to support our owners and our franchisees. So the one area that we didn't touch, and I would say so far, but one area we haven't touched and don't really intend to touch, is our direct contact with our franchisees, our regional directors, who manage a very low amount compared to an industry norm of about 45 to 47 hotels per person. So they know every owner by name, and the owners know them. And I'm finding this out as I have been calling these owners, trying to call as many as I can. And the first thing they mention is, oh, Devin is doing a great job for me, or Charmaine's doing a great job for me, and Sarah's doing a great job for me. So they call out our regional directors by name. So unlike much larger organizations where you may dial into a number and say, hey, I'm experiencing a problem, you don't dial into a number and get assigned, a ticket type of thing to resolve your issue. You deal with a person. And that's the one area that we have not really touched at all, as far as let's be in communication constantly with the franchisees. Obviously, we're dealing with something similar. The revenues are down for them, so they're down for us. And as we try to manage through that, we've had to close about 73 hotels in the Americas, about 27 in Latin America, and 5 in Canada. And EMEA and Asia have closed about, I'm looking at my numbers here, about 254. So we've been, again, it's all about navigating through this and trying to emerge, trying to build a bridge of how we emerge out of it.
Yeah, I can imagine in this contact that you permanently have with your franchisees, you receive a lot of requests. Which are the main requests that they are asking for? Probably
the same main request that you and I would ask for if we were individual hotel owners at this point in time. Please don't charge me any fees. That's so, and I say that in knowing that it's certainly, it's not comical, it's hurting, but that's the most obvious request, right? And so, we've gone through a lot of restructuring immediately. As of the 17th of March, we instituted about 17 items, 17 things that we were going to work with for the franchisees, and such as, canceling PIPs throughout the rest of the year, quality assurance, pushing that off for several months in the future. We suspended finance charges. We have, in some instances, gone on fee deferrals. We've really tried to, again, it's been about 21 direct money saving things that we've done with our franchisees to make sure that they can get through this crisis. Because we understand, look, for many of these, this is just as it is throughout the world, but this is their main source of income. This is their main livelihood, their main business. And look, as far as I know, most municipalities are not going to stop charging them real estate tax. The insurance company is not going to stop charging them insurance. Those don't really flex very much. What is flexed the most? Their revenues disappeared. They've closed the hotel. They've got 10 guests. They've got 30% occupancy if they're lucky. And so it's trying to really understand what they're going through. And part of me being here, as I want them to understand, is I've been in their situation, not through a pandemic, but as far as being a hotel owner, I didn't necessarily come up completely through the one particular part of our business, but I've been a hotel owner and I've been a lender, and I'm here to help them, and I'm here to help them get through this, and here to help them with their lenders as they emerge. And that's kind of the big, as we think about it, one of the big questions is what's going to happen with a lot of these hotels that are technically in default. I mean, let's be honest, unless you're just really funding these out of pocket, technically you're probably in breach of some covenants, which are especially tough on CMBS financing. And we're ready to make sure that we're standing side by side with these owners when it comes time to meet with their lenders and as many constituents as they need us to meet with, to talk about how the bridge back to normalcy and return of revenues is going to come, and why it would be an incredibly bad idea to react in the short term to try to take a property away from somebody who has poured their life's work into getting to this point. And hopefully we'll be able to avoid that. But that's what really remains to be seen. That and some of the liability issues, as you know, that are being addressed with different governments throughout the world, because there's kind of a cottage industry out there and trying to sue hotel owners for different things, such as different aspects of compliance. You'll find people coming after individual hotel owners and trying to make it a revenue source. And so we need to make sure that the government is going to hopefully work with the industry to hold them harmless when it comes to someone saying, hey, I got COVID in your hotel, so I'm going to sue you. How do you know where you got it? I mean, I was in a restaurant this weekend in Florida, and I'm crossing my fingers that I didn't get it there because no one was wearing masks. That's the thing where, as we come out of this, we really have to say, is there going to be some sort of commonality and some sort of the different stages of reopening? I think we need confidence. We need confidence on how governments are going to, on a state by state, a town by town, and a country by country basis, reopen, to give us confidence, that we can provide a safe accommodation for our guests, which is something we've been working on and we'll cover as well. But also give the guests the confidence to be able to have those stays with us.
Yeah, it's amazing, and mainly because you have, as you said, hotels in US, hotel in Canada, hotel in Latin America, like this other story, different countries, different governments, and all the owners trying to survive.
Yes.
This is the rule number one, trying to survive, and then understand if they can be again in the market. Perhaps it will be very tough, but you say there are a lot with huge problems. No?
Right.
But how do you see how will travel will be come back, how the travel in US will return normal? How is expectation? How do you see this?
You know, I'm certainly I certainly believe, like others do, and it probably goes without saying, is a lot of it's going to be, as bad as it is for the hotel industry, it's that bad for the airlines as well. And part of it is going to be, to establish full-scale travel again, the people are going to have to want to fly. So I think at first it's going to be that drive-to accommodation. It's going to be leisure travel. In some instances, people may even be more comfortable staying in an exterior corridor hotel, because there's no hallways to walk through, and they know that the fresh air is right there as soon as they open the door. But I think it's going to be a lot of drive-to. A lot of people have said it, and I don't want it to be cliche at this point in time, but a staycation. But I think it's more of, where can I drive to quick? And I think a lot of people used to say, before I'm going to get on a plane, it has to be 5 hours away, because I can justify my hour trip to the airport, my hour ahead of the flight, and a short flight. And you say, by the time I'm done, I've taken 5 hours flying anyway. So I think maybe people are probably extending that a little bit. But really what's going to bring it back is full confidence in being able to get on a plane. Because as I'm CEO of the Americas, so it's not just the US. I mean, I want people to travel to our hotels in Mexico and Belize, and then down in the Northern Cone, and then throughout South America. I mean, we've got some wonderful hotels with a great partnership with Atlantica, as you know, in Brazil, and hotels in Peru and Chile, and we're working on a pipeline in Argentina, and we're still active trying to get deals done down there. In Suriname, we're trying to get something executed. In Uruguay, we have some hotels. So, part of what I was on the phone with someone yesterday talking about how do I get people back to my hotels south of the border, outside of the US? And I said, part of what I would do is I would explain how, from a lot of the major airports like Dallas, Fort Worth, or Miami International, or Atlanta, the flight from Dallas to Panama is probably not much longer than it is Dallas to Seattle, or it's actually probably shorter. And the flight from Dallas to Cancun is shorter than like Dallas to Chicago. So there are ways to point that out and instill confidence that sometimes people think if I'm going to another country, it must take a half a day. I mean, that's not true, as you know, to the more northern parts of LATAM. But certainly, when it comes to getting on a plane and taking a 9-hour overnight flight to Brazil, people are going to want to know that plane is completely safe. And I think that is a lot of the same knowledge that they're going to want to have about how to do it in the US. But part of what we're working with to instill confidence is we're working with AHLA, and you saw that the World Tour and Trade and Tourism Council had an announcement today about protocols they've worked with my boss, Federico Gonzalez, and they've worked with Hilton as well. And they've worked with IHG as well on taking the protocols that we've all developed about how we're going to bring our hotels back, and taken, it looks like, kind of best in class, and put a pretty lengthy press release out there about how travel will resume and what needs to happen at the property. So we at Radisson Hotel Group have issued a 20+10 protocol on how things are going to be clean, and then the extra 10 steps, in maintenance and engineering that will need to continue to be taken. And those are all going to be, fully transparent and fully listed. And then we're going to have testing available for our hotels through SGS, which is the world's largest testing and certification company, to make sure that, if they go through these protocols, that they'll get this seal that, there's just got to be something to assure travelers. Everyone's doing it. All the big global majors are doing it, and the small people are doing it. But I was listening to the last panel when I was backstage, and part of what they were talking about is, how the luxury segment doesn't want to emphasize that we have clean hotels, because it's assumed if you're paying $500 a night, it's assumed you have a clean hotel. But it's also assumed if you're paying $39 for a night, you want to know that hotels are being cleaned, but it's just not going to be enough in the short term. And so part of what we want to make sure is that we're providing that that security for the guests to think that, okay, this is what they've gone through. So I at least know that this is what this hotel has gone through, and here's a seal, and here's the way they're taking it seriously, and here's the social distancing they're doing, and here's the hand sanitizer they're giving me, and they're making gloves available. And then I think some of it in the U.S., as you know, we have a great preponderance of mid-scale and upper mid-scale hotels that people call either limited service or select service or focused service, where you have food buffets, what you used to lay out for breakfast. So we've got to establish what the new normal is for that as well, because it's not necessarily going to be very inviting to look at 5 different trays of food that everyone can go out and touch.
Yeah,
for a while. I don't think people are going to want to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a huge challenge not to put together the new protocols in order that the guests feel safe. But I think from the point of view of the owners, it's very important. The protocols is very important to have a big umbrella, like for example in this case Radisson, that is because the travelers will feel more comfortable that you are taking control of each of your properties that achieve and follow the protocols. But on the other side, the hoteliers, the owners, need to understand that to put together in the new normal, they need to understand which occupancy they can achieve the very given, no? And it's a huge challenge, no?
Absolutely.
How to be prepared. And you, I suppose that you are working hard to help your franchisees to achieve all this, this model that we will need.
Yeah, absolutely. And because our I would love to be able to tell you we've got 75 hotels in the top 44 urban cores of the United States, but we have a preponderance of hotels that are really suburban, and so an upside for us during this has been we've seen our RGI index actually increase in a lot of situations because we are located in a lot of suburban locations, and we have been able to have that faith and confidence because we are Radisson Hotel Group, and we're a larger chain, and right now people flock to things that they know, and you made a very important point, Arturo, and I think a lot of my colleagues at other companies, and certainly ones that are much larger than ours, have said right now it might be a little bit about scale. It might be a little bit, I trust the global majors, as we call them, the global major hotel companies, to be able to establish and have the financial resources to establish these protocols and make sure they're carried out. Not that a single individual operator of an unbranded independent hotel couldn't do it. Of course they can do it. In some cases, they might be doing it better than anyone else in the world, but you may not know that. But you know that, when it's Radisson, when it's Hilton, when it's Marriott, when it's Hyatt, when it's IHG, Choice, Wyndham, everybody, Red Roof, everyone has announced their own version of protocols to get reopened. And I think it's important. It'd be nice to pay attention to what AHLA has done as well, which is the Safe Stay program, to be able to have that as so many different, as so many different countries in South America, right? And if every different country has a different protocol, well, then it's kind of going to be chaos. So I think that part of what the good thing about having global brands involved is we can spend the money to put forth, and we can go to the governments in Peru, we can go to the governments in Chile, hand in hand with the World Trade and Tourism Council, and sit and say, here's the protocols we've established, and then they can look and they can review and they can say, yes, that's what we want. In some cases, look, they may say, we really want there to be temperature scanners as you're coming in. And I would understand that. It's up to them. We don't run their governments. We operate at their pleasure of allowing us to be there, right? But I think that what we're trying to do is make sure that our commercial engines are set for the reemergence of rebuilding revenues for our franchisees so they can get back to where they're hiring back some of these 7.7 million people who have been displaced as of the last jobs report.
Jim, we are arriving at the end of this session, but having the opportunity to have you here with your huge experience in the industry as one of the important leader of one of the important hotel groups for the whole region, I would like if you can share with us some thought or ideas about the future for our industry.
It's going to look different for a while. I mean, I sincerely hope that we do not have, a second emergence, because then I'm just not sure how long the effect will be. But look, people tend to have relatively short memories once things get back to normal. And so I truly believe that I'm an optimist. I believe on the shorter end of things that we will be, hopefully back to normal, sometime, mid next year. It really depends on resumption of full air travel before it gets back to normal, because as you know, especially for U.S. outbound to Latin America, U.S. outbound to Europe, European inbound and Latin American inbound to the States, we're not going to get back to normal occupancy until that can occur. But, I really see a potential game changer for restaurants and full service hotels. I think that, in my opinion, new construction will stall for quite some time in the U.S. I think it'll be hard to, except for, certain locations, but I think it'll be hard to support new construction in the United States right now when occupancies, until occupancies recover. And I'm looking for, there's going to be some natural tension between borrowers and lenders. And I think unlike, a crisis that was caused by overfinancing or overinvestment and overbuilding, this wasn't any owner's fault this time. So it's time for, the financial community and the government to work together towards a solution, including, some sort of tort reform or hold harmless on any effects of COVID that could be claimed to be generated from a hotel. But I look forward to seeing you down at the next South American Hotel Investment Conference and seeing Jonathan certainly in Europe. It was a shame that all those had to be canceled this year. All hit right at that same time. But we get together as an industry, unlike any other industry. Coke and Pepsi don't go to the same conference and tell each other everything they're working on. We're the only industry that does that, right? And it was very kind of you to say that I'm one of the leaders in the industry, because I just see myself as someone who's just trying to do the right thing here. And certainly I've got colleagues that are far more experienced than me in these other positions. But anyway, thank you so much, Arturo. It was a pleasure to be here.
No, it was my pleasure and our pleasure to have you with us this morning here in this afternoon in this part of America. We really appreciate it. And I hope we will be together soon, Jim.
Great. Me too.